All right, thanks guys, and welcome to our college basketball free pick video here today for Monday, January 17th, 2022. Happy Martin Luther King Day out there to everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, the link for my website is in the description section below. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Utah takes on Arizona State. And that's going to be a 4 o'clock Eastern start time. Arizona State's -2 with the total at 135.5. But despite being favored in this one, Arizona State's on a 3-game losing streak. And they also have a losing record at home. And as a matter of fact, the Sun Devils are being held to just 63 points a game in front of their home fans. And they're also shooting just 38% from the field on their home court as well. They're taking on a Utah team who's limiting their competition to just 29% shooting from three-land. And they're also allowing only 69 points a game. Meanwhile, offensively, on the other end of the court here, the Utes are making 84% of their free throws on the road. And they also currently find themselves in the top 3 in the nation in that particular category I just mentioned. Brandon Carlson, he's making over 88% of his free throws himself, 13.5 points a night for the 7-foot center. Meanwhile, David Jenkins is making nearly 43% of his 3 balls. He's also averaging 10.5 points a game. Now, when it comes to head-to-head meetings here, Utah's gotten the W in 7 out of their last 10 contests with the Sun Devils, and they successfully covered the point spread in 80% of those matchups. When it comes to the total in this one, Utah's last 3 straight fell under the posted number. Unders against the likes of Arizona, Washington, and Wazoo. Meanwhile, Arizona State on the other side, they saw their last 5 straight fall under the line themselves. 7-0 to the under in front of their home fans. I'm going to lean toward Utah +2. Under 135.5. Next game, University of Penn versus Princeton, 4 o'clock East. Princeton's -3 with a total at 146.5. Now the Tigers are on an 8-game winning streak, and they're also undefeated in 10 contests at home. Jalen Llewellyn is scoring over 16 points a game, along with 3 boards and 2 assists. Llewellyn's also making over 42% of his 3 balls. And speaking of 3-pointers, Ethan Wright. Eric? I think it's Ethan. Ethan Wright is making 41% of his shots from downtown. 14 points a game for Wright as well. Now the Tigers are currently scoring over 84 points per contest in front of their home fans. They're also making 51% of their field goals on their home court as well. They're taking on a Penn team who lost 7 out of their last 8 on the road, and they successfully covered the point spread in only 25% of those road contests. The Quakers are currently giving up 80 points a game when they travel, and they've also done a lackluster job of getting defensive boards. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Penn's last 7 got over the number. They're also 6-2 to the over as the road team. Meanwhile, Princeton is currently 7-1 to the over on their home court. I'm going to lean toward the Princeton Tigers -3 and the over 146.5. Next game, Yale versus Brown, 5 o'clock Eastern start time. The Brown Bears are -1 with the total at 143.5. Now, the Bears are scoring 76 points a game in front of their home crowd. They're also doing a pretty nice job shooting from the stripe at home as well. Keno Lilly is draining 40% of his 3-pointers, 13 points a game for Lilly. Meanwhile, Tamanang Cho is scoring over 13.5 points a game himself, along with 8 rebounds. Now, defensively, on the other end of the court, Brown is giving up only 60 points a game at home. They're taking on a Yale squad who lost 3 out of their last 4 themselves, and they're making only 38% of their field goals on the road. Now, when it comes to shooting the 3-ball, the Bulldogs are making only 29% of their shots from beyond the arc away from home. Of course, when it comes to defensive play here, Yale's giving up 74 points a game when they travel. Now, total-wise, Yale's gone 70% to the over in their last 10 ball games. Meanwhile, Brown's 9-1 to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Brown University, -1, over 143.5. Next contest, it is going to be Indiana versus Nebraska, 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Indiana Hoosiers are -8.5 with the total at 147. Indiana won 5 out of their last 7 ball games, 5-2 against the number during that stretch. Now, Indy is also one of the best defensive teams in the country, as they're holding their opponents to just 35% shooting from the field. They're actually in the top 3 in the nation in defensive field goal percentage. Very tough to get to the basket with these guys. Every shot goes contested. Now, scoring-wise, Trace Jackson Davis, he's averaging nearly 20 points a game along with 8 rebounds. Meanwhile, Race Thompson is averaging over 10.5 points a game himself, along with 7 boards and a couple assists. Now, Indy's scoring 75 points a game when they travel, and they're currently in the top 30 in the country in offensive field goal percentage. They're taking on a Nebraska team who lost their last 5 straight, and they also dropped 10 out of their last 11. Now, the Cornhuskers are allowing just about 80 points a game, and they're amongst the worst teams in the Big Ten in defensive boards. Now, total-wise, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Nebraska's last 3 straight all got over the posted number. 7-2 to the over in their last 9. Meanwhile, Indy saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the total themselves. Overs against the likes of Iowa, Minnesota, and Northern Kentucky. I'm going to lean toward Indiana -8.5 and the over 147. Next ball game, it is going to be Delaware versus Northeastern, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Delaware Blue Hens are -1.5 with the total at 139. Delaware scoring 75 points a game, and they're in the top 20 in the country in offensive field goal percentage on the road. Ryan Allen is making 40% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring 14 points a night. Meanwhile, Jameer Nelson Jr. is scoring over 14 points a game himself, along with 5 boards and a couple assists. The Blue Hens currently find themselves in the top 35 in the nation in three-point shooting on the road. They're taking on a Northeastern program who lost their last 6 straight, and they also covered the point spread just 1 time during that span. The Huskies are scoring only 67 points a game at home, and they're amongst the worst offensive rebounding teams in the Colonial League. Now, total-wise, NEU's 4-2 to the over in their last 6 at home, 11-5 to the over in their last 16 at any location. Meanwhile, Delaware has gone 10-2 to the over in all of their contests away from their home court. I'm going to lean toward the Delaware Blue Hens -1.5 and the over 139. Next contest, it is going to be Harvard versus Dartmouth, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Harvard's -1.5 with the total at 136. The Harvard Crimson, they won 4 out of their last 5 ball games. 8-2 straight up in their last 10 meetings with Dartmouth. So if you're into historical trends, well, certainly some good news for Harvard backers there. Now, the Crimsons had little problem scoring on the road this year. They're averaging 77 points per contest away from their home court. And they're also making 75% of their free throws in that same category. Lucas Sakota is drilling 44% of his three-pointers this year. He's also averaging nearly a dozen points a game. Meanwhile, Noah Kirkwood is scoring 17 points a night along with 6 boards and 3 assists. They're taking on a Dartmouth team who lost 9 out of their last 10 ball games. And they're letting their opponents make 40% of their three-pointers against them on their home court. Meanwhile, offensively, the Big Green, they're averaging only 68 points a game. Now, total-wise, Dartmouth went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings. Those were overs against the likes of Penn, Cornell, and Stanford. Meanwhile, Harvard saw their last 2 straight get over the line themselves, and those were overs against conference opponents such as Columbia and Brown during that span. I'm going to lean toward Harvard minus 1.5 in the over 136. Next contest, Drake versus Southern Illinois, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Drake Bulldogs are minus 2 with the total at 130.5. Now, Drake scores over 75 points a game. They're also in the top 30 in the country in shooting the 3-ball. Tucker DeVries is scoring over 13 points per contest along with 4 rebounds. Meanwhile, Roman Penn is averaging double-digit points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Now, defensively, the Bulldogs are allowing only 63 points a game away from home. They're taking on a Southern Illinois squad who's on a 2-game losing streak. And they're also averaging only 65 points a game for the entire year. Now, SIU, they're averaging only 65 points a game for the entire year. I think I just said that. They're also amongst the worst teams in the MVC in offensive rebounding. And when it comes to the total in this one, SIU saw unders recently against Valpo, San Francisco, and Southern Miss. Meanwhile, Drake on the other side, they saw 4 out of their last 6 away games fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Drake minus 2 in the under 130.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Wyoming versus Nevada, 8 o'clock East. Nevada's minus 2.5 with the total at 149. But despite being favored in this one, the Wolfpacks failed to cover in their last 5 straight. And they're also just 1-5 against the spread on their home court this year. Nevada's run into some serious problems defensively this year. They're allowing over 75 points a game. They've had a pretty tough time getting defensive boards. Now they're taking on a Wyoming team who won 12 out of their last 14 themselves. And they're limiting their opponents to just 25% shooting from 3-land when they travel. These guys have been tough guarding the 3-ball away from home. As a matter of fact, the Cowboys, they're allowing only 63 points a game, and they're limiting their competition to just 39% shooting from the field. I'll tell you what, these guys are good defensively. They're also good offensively. Just a good old-fashioned, well-rounded ball club here. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Graham Ike is averaging just about 20 points a game along with 8 rebounds. Meanwhile, Hunter Maldonado is scoring over 17.5 points a game himself, along with 5 boards and 5 assists. And speaking of more offense, Wyoming's averaging over 77 points a game as a team, and they're making 48% of their field goals. Now, total-wise, 6 out of Wyo's last 9 got over the line. They're also 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with Nevada. So, of course, if you're into historical trends, certainly think about that one there. Meanwhile, the Wolfpack on the other side, they saw overs recently against the likes of Air Force and Boise State. I'm going to lean toward Wyoming plus 2.5 and the over 149. Next contest, it is going to be UNLV versus San Jose State. And that's going to be a 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The UNLV running Rebels are minus 8 with the total at 140. But despite being favored on the road in this one, the Rebels have had a tough time covering the point spread this year. As a matter of fact, these guys are covering in only 33% of their contests this season. And they're also averaging only 63 points a game on the road. Now, when it comes to the shooting in this one, these guys are making only 38% of their field goals away from home. They're taking on a San Jose State team who limits their opponents to just 39% shooting from the field on their home court themselves. So with that in mind, I would say advantage San Jose State. The Spartans are holding their opponents to just 64 points a game in front of their home fans. Of course, offensively, Omari Moore is averaging over 13.5 points a game. He's also making 51% of his field goals. And speaking of shooting, Omari Moore, he's converting on 54% of his three-pointers this year, despite only shooting it 28 times. You almost want to see Moore kind of chuck it up some more. But anyway, teammate Trey Anderson, he's connecting on 45% of his three-pointers himself. he's been shooting plenty, and it's just about double-digit points a game for Anderson. Now, San Jose State, they are currently in the top 25 in the nation in offensive three-point percentage. And when it comes to the total in this one, the Spartans saw 2 out of their last 3 fall under the posted number. 4 and 3 to the under at home. Meanwhile, UNLV saw unders recently against New Mexico, San Diego State, and Seattle. I'm going to lean towards San Jose State plus 8 and the under 140. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are currently hitting at 26% in our last 38 premium sports picks on that website. That's freaking horrible. Give me Utah plus 2, under 135.5. Princeton minus 3. Emergency alert system on the TV. Anyway, Utah plus 2, under 135.5. Princeton minus 3, over 146 and a hook. Brown minus 1, over 143.5. Indiana minus 8.5, over 147. Delaware minus 1.5, over 139. Harvard minus 1.5, over 136. Drake minus 2, under 130 and a hook. Wyoming plus 2.5, over 149. San Jose State plus 8, under 140. As far as all the rest of the games go across the country, starting with the 4 o'clock slate, give me Florida Atlantic minus 4, under 136. Hofstra minus 8, over 150. James Madison minus 3, over 144. St. Joe's minus 6.5, over 149. Maryland Eastern Shore plus 5, under 136.5. Stony Brook minus 3.5, over 147. Eastern Illinois plus 22, under 133.5. Prairie View plus 4, over 143 and a hook. Jackson State plus 1, under 130. SIU Edwardsville plus 15, over 147.5. Sacred Heart minus 9, over 141. Wagner minus 16, over 145.5. The Citadel plus 4, over 151.5. Loyola Marymount minus 10, over 143 and a hook. Bryant minus 8.5, over 150. William and Mary plus 11, under 137 and a hook. Charleston minus 8, over 147.5. Stephen F. Austin minus 15, under 137. Kansas City minus 8, under 134. Northern Arizona minus 4.5, over 149. Arkansas Pine Bluff plus 1, under 131. Florida A&M minus 5.5, over 143. Southern Utah minus 10.5, over 141. Idaho State plus 11, under 138 and a hook. And with my next and final free pick for the video, I'm going to lean toward Cal Baptist plus 1.5 and the over 149. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, for some reason, you end up signing up for a membership here today on my website. Just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today on my safe and secure website, you are going to get access to those picks you pay for all the way through the end of January. I always tell folks in nearly every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And if you want to capitalize on all my losses and fade me, well, you're probably going to want to think about signing up for my board member package, where board members get access to every single pick that I give out on that website all the way through the end of January as well. My trash could become your cash. If you faded me over the past couple of weeks or so, you're connecting on well over 70% of your bets. So if you wanted to capitalize on that and fade me, by all means, it's all fair game. But you're going to need to sign up for that board member package so you can see every single pick that I give out that you should end up fading. But anyway, guys, most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday to you. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.